Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Joshua Suliruka here, your host of the Impact Podcast Show. Now, before I do introduce our next special guest on the Impact Podcast Show, I'd love to say two things. And the first thing I'd love to say is I'd love to say thank you. I want to say thank you to those who are listening to this episode either through Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But I also want to say thank you to those out there who are watching this podcast through our YouTube channel. And so if you're watching this through our YouTube channel, make sure you guys like this video if you are receiving any value. I'd love to see where your thoughts are and how much kind of value you get from this. So make sure you guys put a comment down below for any thoughts or anything that you get in terms of this podcast, and make sure that you guys subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on that bell button for the latest updates to our next videos. And so that's the first thing I would love to say. And the second thing that I want to say to you all is, one thing I always do at every podcast is I always state our mission, and our mission is simple. Our mission is to focus on impacting the one. And so if you're getting impacted by this podcast, I encourage you to share this to someone else that can benefit from this. Because remember, it only takes one person to change someone's life, and that could possibly be you, and that will be cool. And so guys, our next special guest on the Impact Podcast Show, guys, I am actually so grateful right now to have the opportunity to interview this man right here. He's actually on the other side of the world. He's in Las Vegas at the moment, and I'm here in Sydney. And so I get the mad opportunity to have a conversation with him. But I just want to share a bit of context, I guess, as to why. A lot of people think about, what's like, who's this guy? Like, what does he do? I want to share to you guys why I got him on here. So he's actually a part of a team called Think Media. And I've been following them for like the past couple of years. But long story short, when it comes to the Think Media team, there's this specific, there was only just one person on there. And I've just been watching him, and it's Sean. And there was one time when I was watching and I was like, who's this guy? it was some different guy. And then it was this guy right here on the other side, Omar. And so, to be honest, like, if I had to be, fully transparent to you all, I don't know. I just love this guy's heart. His heart for people, his heart for, creating content that is actually simple. He uses complex ideas, grabs all the complex ideas, and then he just, creates it in a way that is so simple. A lot of the things that I've done in terms of making the Impact Podcast Show a lot better is actually from this guy right here and the Think Media team. Even just utilizing things like my M50, for all the camera nerds out there, and connecting it through Zoom. Like, this was all from the Think Media team, and most especially the videos I've been watching from Omar. And so, for that, I love this guy's heart, and I'm going to get to know more about this, this man over here. But the one thing I know for sure is that I believe that this man has a story, and I'm so keen and excited to get into it right away. And so, guys, please welcome to the Impact Podcast Show, my man, Omar El-Takrori. Thank you, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Dude, I'm super pumped, and you said my last name right, and I never had to tell you. So legit, that means you're like pay attention to the videos when I say it, because a lot of people get, floored at the fact that they see these certain letters together, and then there's a hyphen sometimes, there's a space sometimes, but you nailed it. Thanks. But I'm pumped to be on this, excited to share my story, and hopefully people would find encouragement in today's episode.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And bro, you know what? Like, yeah, I've actually been listening to a lot of your videos, and that's one of your, that's, when you introduce into the videos, that's what you always said. I'm like, bro, he actually has a mad last name. Because obviously
it's Arab. My dad's Arabian, and my mom's Filipina. And so weird mix nobody has ever heard of. But I guess it looks Mexican. A lot of people are like, you Spanish, you Mexican, bro? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm Filipino and Arabic. My dad definitely held it down with the last name, but I'm glad because it's free on everywhere. I got my email, I got my social, I got my website. And so nobody got Omar El-Takrori. That's for shout.
Yeah, bro. Same as me, man. When it comes to my last name, like my last name's a first generation. Like it's a combination between my mom and my dad's last name, and they just put it together.
That's tight.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. But yeah, man, I was gonna say, bro, I'm so excited and pumped to have a conversation with you, bro. But I want to also say thank you for taking your time. I know that time is valuable, and I know that you do have things, in your own world, and things like I know you have, your little girl, your baby girl, and then you also got your wife too. So I know that time is really valuable for you. So I want to say thank you so much for jumping on.
For sure. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, sweet. So, I guess the first thing I want to, get into, I want to get straight into the podcast right now. We do have an impact community that listen in on the weekly basis, but and also we got your I guess your fan base, or the people that follow you. But I guess for the Impact Podcast Show family, is there any chance that you could possibly share just a bit about who you are, just so then people know exactly who Omar El-Takrori is?
For sure. Yep. So my name is Omar El-Takrori. I'm 29 years old. I was born in 1991 in California, in the Bay Area. And in 2001, my family kind of moved over here to Las Vegas. There was a lot of new opportunity here. Obviously, people hear about the real estate market in San Francisco, and it was crazy then. So they moved us here. I'm one of three siblings, 3 kids. I'm the middle child. So I pretty much was raised here in Las Vegas. And since going to high school, it was a lot of people go to high school and kind of just get through it. And for me, it was kind of probably like the most impactful season of my life, in the sense that, you had the ability to select an elective. And the elective I chose was broadcast journalism. It was the elective that allowed us to create the morning announcements. And I thought it was just a cool idea to be able to be, I don't know, there was maybe there was a vanity side to that. And I was like, man, I want to be on the screens in the morning. But I was able to take that elective my sophomore year. And that's when the world just opened up to me. And when it came to editing video, but even like coming up with creative types of, public service announcements. If we were highlighting something at the school, then, we had to creatively figure out a way to communicate that. But it was during the times we were using kind of like DV tapes, and you had to capture the tape for whatever you were going to use to edit. And then when you exported it, you didn't export a file, you exported it back onto a tape. It's kind of weird to say that I was like living through that, but that was like 2006. And I literally remember when I was a junior or a senior, that was like the emergence of like the Nikon D90, I think, where that was like the first DSLR camera that was able to shoot video. And because of like, obviously the lenses and the aperture being so low and things like that, you were able to produce kind of like that blurry background. Like, I guess that was like really hard to do unless you had a lot of money, and now they made it kind of like consumer friendly. But that was like big, revolutionary time. But all that to say, I've never put the camera down. And so, I then graduated high school, but took broadcast journalism sophomore, junior, senior year. And then I went to UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where number one, I joined Army ROTC, which is a program that kind of is a 4-year program. While you get your degree, you can learn to become and be commissioned as an officer in the Army, United States Army. And then I also was initially going for business information systems, was my initial degree of choice. And I had a lot of trouble with accounting. For some reason, it just wasn't clicking. Like I was like spending so much time with the professor, and the guy was like, bro, real talk, maybe this isn't for you. And I was like, bro, for sure it isn't. And so I was like, what is something I actually enjoy doing? And I still enjoyed shooting videos and editing videos at the time, 2009, 2010, I was still vlogging. Like I was still spending late nights on my laptop and editing video just because I really enjoyed it. And I didn't know that like sometimes like that, I guess you could say that's a lie, that you feel like school can't be enjoyed, and when I changed my major to journalism and media studies, I actually started enjoying college. I actually enjoyed the classes I was taking, even though maybe there was a little bit of like outdatedness to it. It was still interesting. I still enjoyed the stories of our professors and things like that. But so I got my degree in 2013 in journalism media studies, commissioned as an Army officer. And shortly thereafter, when I was a junior in college, I was raised Catholic up until this point, Roman Catholic. My mom would just take us to church, traditional Filipino situation. And my junior year of college, I was invited by my brother to actually go see this other church. And it was kind of like it was a Christian non-denominational church. And I went to the Christmas service because my brother was doing like this rap. And I mean, that service, I maybe for the first time in my life felt like the audible voice of God, and essentially I felt him saying like, "Here's your home." Like, and for that was like very, that moment for me was, I mean, I could think about it like I was there right now. Cause the pastor preaching at the time, he's literally, I feel like he's speaking to me, and he's speaking to my situation and my confusions in life and in all these things. And so, obviously, I mean, my little brother, who actually was going there for about a year and a half or so, he's the reason why I actually even went in the first place.
Wow.
And so he was like, talking through it. I started going a couple Sundays back to back, and I started going to the youth ministry, as a young adult. It was like youth, young adult ministry. And, it's just crazy. I think God just, got a hold of my heart, and I started to learn and be passionate about the things of God. And so that was like my junior year of college. And then when I graduated, I got to the point where I got involved enough to the point where they offered me a part-time position to be an associate. And what's so crazy is my boss at the time was Sean Cannel, the guy at Think Media, so that's when we got first connected, was in like 2011, 2012. And then, when I graduated college, getting offered that job, it was awesome. But what's crazy is I, for a year's time while I was in that position, Sean was actually asked to move to Orange County, California, and kind of lead a campus. And so those were I had to fill his shoes. And even then he had big shoes to fill, but I really grew in that creative director role. And I did that for about 3.5 years, until around mid 2016, I felt, led to step off full-time ministry, step off the security of a salary and things like that, and then pursue, contract and freelance work. And that's funny how I went there with it. But also in that time, I also met my wife, who was Amanda El-Takrori, which is crazy. It's funny how when you actually start telling your story, you're like, things are crazy. Amanda was actually, we went to the same high school. She graduated 2 years before me, but she too took journalism and media studies, and broadcast journalism. So I actually remember her in the class, but obviously, I mean, we weren't looking at each other or anything like that, but it was so cool because she actually attended the church LV, and we got connected. I ended up having to find a date for a military ball, and I ended up asking her if she would go with me, and then the rest was history. Got married. And, we got married really quick. After just a year of dating, we got married. And then, so it was like a big faith jump in 2016 when, I made the decision to just, try freelance work and contract work, and trusting that her salary, even if this didn't work, at least we'd be able to pay the bills at a minimum. But it was really cool because in that time I got reconnected with Sean, and through a lot of freelance work and doing a lot of client work, it was cool to still have, start that relationship again with Sean and really start helping him build Think Media. And to seeing what it's grown to now, it's been incredible. And I mean, through all this, it's been since 2016, it's been 4 years that I've essentially not had a boss. It's been 4 years since I've had to wake up and choose to make decisions. And then also in 2018, my gosh, I just do too much in my life. I need to chill out. When I stepped off a staff, an old friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, me and my wife want to move back to Vegas and plant a church. And would you and Amanda be down to help us plant?" And honestly, I thought about it, and I thought about how I was thinking how can I best be used? How can God use me the most? Max me out. And I felt that would be a good decision in that regard. And so I was 100% we're down. I mean, Las Vegas needs more churches, not just the church we just planted or helped plant, but more churches in general. And so we helped our pastors, Jabin and Shannon Chavez, plant City Light Church here in 2018. It was definitely a process to get to that plant date and consecutive Sundays, but we've seen close to 2,000 people call this church home in just 2 short years. And through everything, it's just been incredible. And all this is happening, between 2016 and 2020, but in it, I'm growing. I think I'm maturing. And at the end of the day, I think things that I know that I have deemed important in my life, or have claimed a high value on, have taken precedence. And things I place a high value on is my marriage. Things I place a high value on is my family. I also place a high value on the local church. I felt a call. Maybe a lot of people wouldn't think, because a lot of people are trying, that I meet who want to be in ministry. They want to be in ministry, but I felt that that God wanted to use me in a way that I could, he would honor my time financially so that I could help at such a high level without having to take a paycheck. And so currently at City Light, me and my wife help run the small groups at the church, as well as help creatively and things like that. But I don't take a check. And I would say I serve at a pretty high level, and I love it. I love that our life allows us to afford the ability to build God's house. And then at the same time, serve a huge community of people on Think Media, where we, are helping people build their influence. And with the brand, with the business of Think Media, we've seen thousands of people, quit their jobs and start their online businesses. And it's just been wild from there. And even just finding my voice in this whole, content creator world. I think there's a lot of awesome content creators, but I think specifically my burdens are always found in like helping the person that doesn't know how to get started. And then as well as taking the person who knows what they're doing and how they can even be quicker at it. Because when I started doing like weddings and, like photography, I was shooting weddings. I was also shooting videos, small business promos and things like that during that season. I always was trying to find a way that how could this be faster? How could I, speed this process up? How can I get the deliverables to the client quicker? And through that, I guess, burden, like I don't meet too many people that feel that way about their processes. I've been able to see how I can get things done quickly. And almost that level of thinking has allowed me to help a lot of people, and not just in that way of thinking, but more or less that I can do more in less time. And I think maybe in that there's a future for me to share kind of like my growth as a businessman. Like I have a lot of friends who are creative, who have taken the leap to do freelance and contract work. And I think 90% of the time they end up finding another job because they never really kicked in. And I wouldn't even say it was their skill level. I would say it was their inability to become a business person, because at the end of the day, it's an exchange of services. And if you get so caught up in like your art form and things like that, I mean, you can, deter you and make you, not be able to fulfill the requests and needs that people are paying you for. But all that to say, I mean, I think I find myself in such a healthy place. I really love all that I'm a part of. I think what I'm a part of actually keeps me going. I'm not doing what I'm doing alone. The support system that's around me, the things I'm a part of, the community I'm involved in, and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, it really is just being like knowing that I'm called. At the end of the day, when I have to wake up and choose certain realities and the way I'm going to dictate our life, and I feel a call on that reality to live in what I'm doing. And that comes with having a genuine personal relationship with Jesus. I think when I made that decision that Christmas Day that I wanted to start following Jesus with my life, everything changed, and then as I became more of a man and graduated college and, now I'm buying a house and things like that, the wisdom of God that began to fill me through just daily devotion, community and things like that. And so now I have, I got the Holy Spirit helping me make decisions, and I'm not doing anything alone in human regards and also in spirit regards, because I feel like I'm in God's will in that sense. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like I could keep talking because it's like I'm 29. I'm like, I've hit 22. No, I'm just kidding. But that's essentially, so like currently that's what I'm doing. I'm building God's house, City Light Church here in Las Vegas. And then I'm a part of Think Media. I have kind of cut back on the freelance contract work this year specifically, partially because I didn't have a choice. I mean, a lot of people were just like, hey man, sorry, we got to cut ties because this COVID's taking us out. Slash because of that I'm like, man, I'm waking up every day choosing to do work for other people's businesses and things like that. I felt like, man, maybe time is up when it comes to helping businesses and people when it comes to service-based work or client-based work. And I really felt strongly to start helping the person who is going to be stepping into that. So let me help the photographer, let me help the videographer become better as a business person, but also, dial in their processes. And so I don't know, it's kind of low key. I haven't really like fully announced it, but like I have transitioned my personal website to a like content creator coach more than a photographer or videographer, So I've been able to transition that and I've been coaching people. It's been really cool. Like I've just been doing this, asking people how they do get things done and how it could be quicker based off of what I've seen. And yeah, it's been incredible to see all the things that have happened and the things that I put my hand to. One thing that I really feel like showed that I had a lot of value was one of those clients. I was able to organically grow their online business selling like lash products and things like that. And by the implementation of YouTube and strategy and things like that, as a service-based, taking nothing on their end, they were just paying me a monthly retainer, which was great. But their sales would grow $30,000 month over month. And for like 7-8 months, that was happening. So 30 and then 60 and then the next month 90 and then the next month 120. And so now, like, although I'm not working with them, I have a case study and I have something I know that works. And in regards to building your business using online video and not just podcasting or not just tutorials and just YouTube, but like that there's something here when it comes to a business and it not having to be like this personality thing, but actual businesses, brick and mortar could implement these things. So all that to say, yeah, man, I think I just find myself in the creative flow of just helping people. And as much as possible, I try to, 2 times a week, drop a video on Think Media in whatever we feel kind of makes sense in the season we're in, as far as what we're teaching, helping people grow with online video.
Bro, that is amazing, man. Like that was a lot, but I'm listening to you, man. I'm just saying, man, this guy does a lot. And the cool thing is, bro, it's all behind the scenes. People don't see it. People don't see what you're doing behind the scenes. Like, man, I didn't even know that you ran a small groups. I run a small group at my local church, but I had no clue that you were doing that. All I had seen was like, man, all I know is he goes to, like, he's part of Think Media. He has a family, and that he's a church. Like he goes to church, right? And I was like, that's it. But to hear what you were saying, man, you were like just sharing like from obviously growing up and then going to college and then even to where you are right now, man, there's a lot of things that we can get into, which we're going to get into right now, man. And so I've got like heaps of questions that I would love to ask just based on the information that I received from you, man. But I guess before I do, I'm just gonna let the audience know that right now we're going to get into knowing more about who Omar is. One thing I believe in is that before the glory there is always a story, and like as you guys can hear, and for the people that do know who Omar is, like he's received so much benefits and a lot more I guess growth into where he is right now. He's no longer he no longer has a boss, or like he's running his own business, and he even mentioned and it hasn't been announced yet that he's going to get into coaching. And so knowing that he's in that place right now, I always believe that there is a story behind it. And today we're going to get straight into that, and we're going to kind of dissect and find all the little pieces so it can help encourage you guys. And so, bro, I guess the first question I want to ask you, and I guess we want to start off with, is could you kind of share just a bit about your upbringing? I know that you were talking about your parents, at the start, but could you kind of just share a bit about how it was being Omar at a young age?
Yeah, man. So I was growing up in San Francisco. It's like a smaller sub city called Daly City, just actually 95% like Filipino, and that might have been my mom's choice. But I was raised there, and growing there with my parents who, my mom was Roman Catholic. My dad, I would say he's Muslim, but he was like non-practicing, I guess you could say. And so he would come to church, on Christmases and Easter and things like that. But my dad was a mechanic, and he managed a pretty successful mechanic shop in San Francisco. And my mom kind of always worked in tech. She worked for like Kensington, which is like now, it's a computer, hard drives and cases and things like that. And then some other stuff. But I mean, I don't really know too much of like, other than that, what my mom did. But I mean, growing up, I mean, I had, I'm the middle of three. And so I have my older sister and then my younger brother. Currently, my sister is a hairstylist and my younger brother is a youth pastor. And, but growing up, that was the dynamic of like a multicultural home, but my mom kind of leading the theme, I guess you could say. Like, I would definitely say I'm more Filipino than I am Arabian, just with the foods we ate, the families. My dad's the only one from his family that actually came to the United States when he was wanting to go to college, and then he never went back. And so I never really got to meet my cousins on that side, more or less, but a lot of our family who also lived in LA and things like that from my mom's side, from the Philippines, they also have all moved, kind of here to US. And so that was really fun. Like, obviously, like Christmases and things like that. But yeah, I would say looking back, it was probably more strict than typical, household. I wasn't able to play video games until Friday nights and Saturday nights. And then Sunday I had to be shut off early, but then I didn't get to see it again till Friday. Was involved in playing sports. I love basketball. I still do. Not play basketball. I still love basketball.
Yeah. Different, man.
Now I get long-winded after a short run. But yeah, I mean, yeah. And then moving here was huge. I think moving here was crazy because we moved from obviously a smaller place, and the cost of living at the time, and even now, it's pretty low compared to a lot of metropolitan type cities. Not to say Vegas is there, but it kind of feels like it. And, we moved into a house that had a pool and a huge backyard. And like, I think the house is 2,600 square feet from like just a smaller single family home in San Francisco. But yeah, moving here was really cool. I mean, we enjoyed it in 2001, and then just growing up and kind of doing, I guess, what you would normally do, go to school, play sports and things like that. And I would say, being raised Catholic, I don't know, I had like this maybe more extensive like moral compass than your average, teenager or young person. Like, I never really did anything. Like, I didn't have my first drink of alcohol till I was my 20th birthday. I knew I was going to go to, I was going to be away for my 21st. So I like just wanted to celebrate on my 20th. But like, that was just because I was afraid to. Like, I was afraid to start to smoke weed. I was afraid to try drugs. And so although I was like friends with a lot of people and had the scene of the party, and I would go to parties, but there was just something like call it the fear of God or whatever. But like, I just always, and I do look back, when I look back and see what I'm really appreciative of in regards to being raised Catholic. I know a lot of times the lifestyle Christianity thing could kind of like downplay Catholicism. And I would say there are a lot of things that make it kind of hard for you to relate to God, because it is a religion more than it is a relationship. But I would say what it taught me was a reverence for God. I think my mom just taught me to have like an awe that like God is God. And regardless if you know him personally, just to know that like there is a God, and we should be in fear of him in like the best way, not afraid of him, but in awe. I think that has definitely transitioned over into the way me, my brother, and my sister now follow Jesus. Like, my brother is killing it. Like, I would consider my brother one of the best communicators at his age. He's 26 and running a youth ministry of like 250 and doing it so well. And then my sister, who has just had her third kid and just leading her family with her husband really well. It's I think that played such a huge role in our upbringing to when we really got saved and had made that like personal decision to follow Jesus and to like learn about him and have a, daily Bible reading routine and things like that. And being a devoted Christian, that a lot of that came from just learning how to have a fear of God, and so all that to say, I think I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful that was our upbringing. But then I'm also grateful that I met Jesus. Like I'm grateful that that was the case, and so something that our siblings, me, my brother, and my sister share is that we are all we build God's house. We're all living in our call, but we're also honoring God in what it is we're doing. And so, yeah, that was kind of our upbringing. I would say maybe not so far off. I'm also grateful my parents are still together. I've met a ton of even strong Christian families that are in their second marriages or just are single families and things like that. And so I'm grateful that through all the stuff, they're still together and we have pretty strong knit fam.
Yeah. Oh man, bro. Thank you so much, man, for sharing. About your upbringing, and honestly, shout out to your mom and dad, man.
For sure.
They didn't just raise, your older sister and your younger brother, well, but they raised you well, man. Just to see what you're doing now, and still switched on, and even that, having that fear of God, that's real. That's a real big importance in terms of the faith is having that reverence. Funny enough, man, that was actually my reading this week. I was reading about the fear, the fear of the Lord. And how people just misinterpret what fear means, and so obviously it was good to see that in context what you were mentioning about fear being like in reverence, because that's exactly how it is in terms of the faith.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, our church is currently doing like this course called like Devoted, and it's a 6-week course, but in the 6 weeks time we're kind of reading through the New Testament. And so it's 10 chapters a day with 2 days of break in between, twice a week there's a break. All that to say, yeah, dude, I mean, it's weird. Like when you really, like God's word just illuminates, man. Like even if you read it over and over, a scripture I read today that I know off the back of my head, it just came out differently today. Today, in Matthew, where he talks about the different soil. So Jesus is telling a parable, and he's talking that there's like different types of soil, and when a seed lands on the soil, different things happen. And the illustration is like what happens when we are given the word of God, whether it be in church form or maybe whatever, in any way, shape, or form. What happens when that seed hits the soil, which the soil is our soul, our hearts, or whatever. But when I read that this morning, it's crazy because when Jesus explains the illustration, he's like, the enemy, snatches it, or the enemy like takes it from like your heart, right? That was like number one. Number 3, 4, 5, 6 were all on the person. Yeah. It was like the worries of life. There was joy when it was received, but then it didn't bear good fruit because the joy faded off. Like it was all, and I was like, my gosh, like how much in our lives are we actually self-sabotaging and yet like saying that it's another outside source? Like, no, man, the enemy's got me. Like, no, maybe you're not, your soil isn't right. Man, And so like, I don't know. When I saw that today, I was like, dude, I am responsible for my soil. And it really is like, when you think about it, 1 out of 5, like that percentage or that ratio that like, maybe it isn't the enemy and maybe it's me. But yeah, that was all that to say. I'm grateful for God's word and that it always speaks and things like that. So plays a huge role.
Yeah, man. And bro, like I'm the same too. And honestly, I guess, I know that before you were talking about, having that freedom, now to, make those decisions. Cause before you're obviously under a boss, or you're hoping like you're doing, I guess, freelancing and, having to help other people, which is amazing. But I realize now that you understand the true freedom, because you get to wake up and say, I get to choose, to, for example, create these, I want to say create specific content, but just create content. And it's like the things that you love. You also get to wake up and say, you know what, like I get the opportunity right now to help people. And I guess that was one thing I wanted to point out just quickly. Like you mentioned about, you stepping away from, ministry and then like pursuing into this, I guess into the creating business. And then to the point now where you still get to actually, I guess play a more vital role because of the because you don't have to worry about, working from paycheck to paycheck or having that salary. You have enough income to actually pay the bills so that you have more time to impact people, which is amazing because that is exactly the journey that I'm on right now. Like I'm on that right now. I haven't really shared it to much people, but I'll share right now. Like that is pretty much my heart as to why I'm wanting to do what I want to do. Just a bit of context. Like I stepped away from like working my 9 to 5. I've never worked a 9 to 5 in my life. I was always just a casual, but I just stepped away from there to say, you know what, I want to pursue on becoming a freedom coach. And pretty much, for me growing up, I was fatherless. Like I didn't have, a father growing up. And so, my heart is actually, help the fatherless find true freedom. And like, for me, it's like, I'm getting freedom just by not just talking and voicing it out, but most importantly, just thinking about actually making a stand and helping those young, most specifically, like the young people, just walking around and just like clueless as to who they are. And so, like, I'm on that similar like journey. I haven't gone there yet. I haven't gone to the point where I'm like totally free to, do what I want because of the financial, side of things. Like I'm still on that journey, but it's cool to see, man, that like you're sharing like that you shared about, the position that you're in and that you have, I guess, you're close to having that full freedom to do whatever you want, obviously with boundaries, you don't want to be too loose. But yeah, man, I just wanted to say, man, like I'm fully excited to see where you go from this point. And I guess you're only just starting.
For sure. I appreciate that. Yeah, man. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I think we live in a world that a lot of people just like to change, like we live in a world where if it stops getting easy or if it gets harder, then I want to change it, and like I've experienced that with like people and personally, like with majors, like it got hard. And so I changed my major, and I'm grateful for it. But like, that's kind of how we, as a world culture, we deal with a lot of things. We just change. And I think some people think that I'm potentially like this chosen creator that is like, has like the hand of God in my hands and like in my brain. And I would actually argue, no, I just didn't quit. I started video in high school and I have not put the camera down. And I think about it in so many ways. Like anytime somebody wants to start something again, you're starting from zero. And so more than actually being like a super called, skilled, whatever, how many times have you quit and started over? Like in my life, I'm grateful that I didn't. Like, I mean, I know so many people in my journey that actually was creating video and whatever, like in the early 2000s, and they just stopped because they just stopped. I mean, it's fine. Do what you got to do. But because I didn't stop, it's why, you can, a lot of people talk about the 10,000 hours. I'm like, dude, I'm well past 10,000 hours. It's not even about skill anymore. It's just about not quitting. And so I think that with so many things, like just being immersed in a world, and I don't mean doing one thing, the only thing 10,000 hours times, but like being immersed in a skill set or a world that you're not going to leave. And whatever comes your way, you'll just, maneuver and stay in it. And so I think in that, I've seen a lot of people who are succeeding in life are really just people who haven't quit and they've just stuck with it. And so I think a lot of times that's the differentiator. And so like, even though I am making a pivot, I'm still doing like the same thing, like I'm just doing it differently or doing it for a different person or what have you. And so, yeah, man, I think not quitting is probably the number one game changer when it comes to someone succeeding or not. That is success. Like success is simply someone who passed the threshold of like not quitting, because who knows what success is if you quit. But yeah, man, I think, grateful to see what God will do too, man. Like in regards to like the coaching flow, it's something so new to me. But it is cool to be able to, at one point, I'm doing these elongated shoots, whether it's photos or video, and then I got to go home and edit and then deliver. And then they want to remove this out the background and that off the background. And now I can just sit with a person right here and then just help them in whatever, setup they need to get going. Like, what are they trying to build? And like, I didn't have to leave my desk, and essentially it's like essentially the same dollars exchanged, just energies allocated differently. So it's been cool to see how that's come to play, but yeah, man, I'm pumped too.
Yeah, man. Bro, I'm actually really pumped for you, man. And so I guess what I want to do is I just want to take a step back and probably just, I guess speak more about your family because you do actually have another family. You're not actually just a part of the family that you're talking about, mom, dad, older brother, older sister and older and younger brother. But you do actually have your own family yourself. And so I guess we'll take a pivot and, move into talking about a bit about your family. And so I know that you did share, when you were introducing yourself about your wife and how you guys both met, how you guys both met. And I know that you have, good old Ruby. She's cute, man. she is so cute, bro. But did you want to kind of share just a bit about, how you guys met? I know you did share a bit about it, but I would love to, I'd love for the viewers to know a bit about you guys.
Yeah, man. So I've currently been married for 7.5 years. We dated for a year, which was, I think, it was shocking to my mom and dad that I like in just 11 months, I asked them like, yo, or I kind of told them, I didn't ask them. I was like, yo, I'm going to marry Amanda. And, from like Filipino culture, a lot of times it starts with like, it's kind of backwards. It's not as, it's not biblical or whatever you want to call it, but it's like move in together first, see how that goes. If you can live with that person, then maybe think about proposing, and like maybe 6 years down the line, you actually marry this person. I actually was challenged because that was my way of thinking, even after I got saved. But when I met with my youth pastor at the time, and I was like, yo, man, or he wanted to know what my intentions were. He's like, yo, what are your intentions with Amanda? And I think I just gave my life to Christ in December of 2011. And then me and Amanda started dating around May of 2012. And so I was like, I don't know. I mean, honestly, bro, I like bro as in pastor, like I was like, I plan on, finishing college, maybe do 2-3 years active duty, do a deployment or two, and then, leave, get out of the military, and then start my life, get married and things like that. He's like, yeah, so that's not happening. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, no, you're not going to waste 5 years of her life. Like, she's looking for a husband. I was like, that was a challenging conversation. It wasn't anything I disagreed with, because I was so new and I wanted to do the things the right way. Just kind of like was a small blind spot for a new believer, thinking that like that was still okay. And in it, like, no, I wanted to honor God in everything I did. And so, yeah, just 11 months of dating, I found a cool opportunity to be able to propose at the last basketball home game at UNLV, which was super cool. But nonetheless, so got married in a year and taught me a lot. Like we like helping couples a lot of the times, younger couples, because I think sometimes there's like a fantasy that you have to have a dream wedding, or you have to throw down so much money. And honestly, we actually made money from our wedding. And it was like, everyone says that it was one of the most memorable weddings because it wasn't so grandiose. It was actually just us. Like, it was just very us. But it's been really cool. I mean, like, it's so cool that like we both have like obviously aligned calls. Like, she feels a call to build God's house as well. But at the same time, she's been an incredible mom. Like, in the last 2 years, Ruby's going to turn 2 in about a week and a half, or next Thursday, actually, which is crazy. But her being able to assume those roles or take on those roles at like such a high level, I think attributed to this reality. In high school, she literally read books on marriage. In high school, she read books on the role of a wife and the role of a mother. And so when I actually, on our wedding day, she actually gave me a box with like notes that she wrote in high school to her husband, and that she would give this to him on his wedding day. So I was like, bro, I freaking scored like crazy. And I was like, dude, nobody is getting this like experience right now. And so I love how much she took that role seriously. But there was also like this dynamic. I think a lot of people in her life, because I was a newer believer when we started dating, were kind of worried because she was a little more seasoned. Like, I mean, seasoned as in she was going to church a lot longer. She made a decision to follow Jesus at a younger age. But nonetheless, I think she saw maybe my fire for Jesus and trusted that. And it's been cool to see how that dynamic has played out in our marriage, and how, becoming the spiritual leader of the house and growing and maturing. Because I think a lot of times that could be the case. You can have like a girl who loves Jesus, and then she is attracted to maybe a guy who isn't so hot, or maybe brand new to the faith, or maybe not even a follower at all, but she's giving it a shot because all the dudes at church suck. I don't know, but like that is the case a lot of the times. And I think just there's something about knowing the person to the point where you know enough. And so when people ask me, how'd you get married in just a year of knowing Amanda? My thing is always like, obviously hanging out a lot helps, and having the same friend group helps, and all that, it adds to it. But I would always tell people, like, you can learn enough about a person in less than a year to whether you should spend your whole life with them, and I always encourage people who like are unsure about the person they're currently dating. And I like to ask them, like, I think that you're supposed to marry a person when you can create a scenario in your head and it not change what you think or feel about that person. And so I honestly went there in my head. I was like, what if she sucks with money? That wouldn't change the way I feel about her. I mean, that we would just fix it. What if she had a sixth toe that I didn't know about? I honestly wouldn't care, and so, like, I honestly went to like weird places in my head. Like, what if she this, what if she that? And it's still like, I would always come to that conclusion of knowing that, like, no, it doesn't change the way I think or feel about her. And so I knew that when I got there, that it was all go, And so I encourage people that are dating, like, that's a good place. If you are wondering about something, I mean, that'll only magnify later if you're not okay with it now. And so I would say, go there in your head. If you want to know if this is the person you're supposed to marry, then ask yourself, what if this person XYZ? Obviously, there's way more extremes that you want to go there, but like under like the little things, I think a lot of the times people move in together pre-marriage because they're trying to figure out the little things, but there's not enough little things that you can put your hands on in any amount of time, because we're still growing, like we're still discovering stuff about us, especially as now we have a kid. And like little did I know, but when a girl has a child, it changes the girl, like on a physical, on a mental, on an emotional standpoint, it changes them. And so like now here's a new adventure that we're learning in regards to being parents and things like that. But yeah, man, I think at the end of the day, like if you can stay connected to a community that won't allow for the BS, for lack of a better term, to come into your marriage. Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important to be a part of a church family, because now I have people that are in my life that are in seasons that are way ahead of me that can, help us, or seasons that are behind us that we can help them. And things like that. Like that dynamic in the local church I think is not talked about enough. The dynamic of having friends who are 2-3 times older than you, have lived longer, and yet want to pour into you. But then at the same time that there's people that are younger than you that you can also pour into as well. But that dynamic in the local church has probably made it one of my favorite things about God's house, that like age kind of doesn't have a barrier when it comes to relating with others, because we all share the same faith, And so I definitely think somebody once told me, like, the best thing you can give a church is a healthy marriage. And the best thing a church can give you is a healthy church, but it starts with like the home. And I would say I had that misconception when I actually worked in ministry, because I wasn't giving the church a healthy marriage. I was giving the church my work and my time and my effort, my energy, and then thinking that input was what is going to produce a good marriage, which that's not the case. And even like when I read, that scripture in Ephesians that's always said at weddings, it's like Christ, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church. I mean, this might sound kind of like strikingly countercultural, but I read that and now I see it's Jesus's job to love the church the way he loves the church. It's not my job to love the church the way Jesus loves the church. It's my job to love my wife like Jesus loved the church. And so we can get caught up a lot of times in loving what God is supposed to love at the level he's supposed to love at. And that's reserved for him. Yes, I love the local church, but I don't love it like Jesus loves his church. It's his church. And so in the same way, this is my marriage. And so I'm going to love Amanda in the same way Jesus loves his church. And so, yeah, man, that's kind of like a little bit of our marriage and kind of like my philosophy and theology around the idea of marriage and things like that.
Right, that's amazing, man. Like it's so amazing to see, where you and Amanda are still even like, 7.5 years into your marriage, and to still see that you guys are flourishing. There is times in, I guess it's all about relationships, that, you do have, conflicting moments. You're going to have, I wouldn't say arguments, but just like, I guess discussions. You probably have a lot of discussions, some agreements, some disagreements. But to see you guys still, like pushing through, I can see that there's been a lot of persistence. And so, yeah, man, like kudos to you two for pushing through. And bro, most importantly, man, like I was just like reflecting as you were talking about, how you guys met, and then like only being in the relationship for a year, and then still, pursuing into marriage from there on. Like then on, I guess one thing I've learned, and it's not just from your story, but it's also from other people's story, is that time doesn't actually mean anything. Like like you can date someone for like you can date someone for like a year, and then you can date someone for 4 years, and you can still probably get like, I guess the value, or you get to know more of a person in that 1 year as opposed to the 4 years. Like it doesn't really add up to anything. Like time doesn't really mean much in that space. And I guess you're a good example of that.
For sure. Yeah, man. I think the Bible says life's but a vapor, man. And I don't think Kobe Bryant says, like, if you think we have enough time, then you're thinking wrong. That we don't have as much time as we think we do. And so I think stewarding that which we have currently is the most important thing that we can focus on. And so that was kind of like my thinking even back then as a younger dude was like, man, I can BS my way through life and then make a decision or something like that. Or I can actually, team up with somebody and we can, journey through life together. And so I think obviously everything you see, or whatever people see in their perceptions of whatever I'm doing and what I'm involved in, or how much influence I have or what have you, stems from a place of a healthy marriage and having a partner that I can process things with, that I can, we can strategize or think through. Like having that ability is everything. And so, I mean, I think she in the same way has just as much clout, for whatever it's worth, that I have, because we're one, and so we process things together, we think through things. And so 100% it's a team effort.
Yeah, honestly, it is a team effort. And I guess too, knowing that it is a team effort, it's also a team effort for you guys to be raising, raising Ruby. And so, how's it been? I know that, like, I guess for the past 5 minutes, we've been talking about, your role as a husband, and how you and Amanda came to pass, but also came to life, and how you guys connected. But how was it knowing that, like, you've been a father for, close to 2 years? How's that been for you?
Dude, I mean, honestly, I'm one to think that I'm always going to be like a kid. Like, I don't know why I feel like I never feel like I'm growing up. I would say, though, having an actual kid, I would say was the biggest push ever. Like, I remember when we first found out that Amanda was pregnant, she told me, and I was like, shoot, the first person I called was my sister. And I was like, Nicole, like, I can't do anything now. That was literally like my first thinking. And she was like, honestly, she's like, Omar, it's the opposite. She's like, now you're going to do everything, because like now you have like a bigger reason and a bigger push to like go for it, because you have more to lose, but I think my growth as a human being has been exponential since I became a dad, because now I'm actually consuming differently. Like, I'm not just consuming for me. Like, now I'm reading books on time. Like, one book I read 2 years ago, right before Ruby was born, was 2-hour work week, or 4-hour work week. And that book revolutionized the way I think about time. And so now I think about time in a different way, but that affects the way I now parent. But that's because I made a decision to read a book that would affect the way I live my life. So I say all that to say that having a kid definitely will give you the push. But I mean, I meet people who it's the opposite too. Like, they settle for less and what have you. But I want to create a reality for Ruby that like, I always remembered my parents leaving for work and then me going to school And when it was the summer, it was my parents left for work and then they came home in the evening. My parents left for work. I felt like me and Amanda want to create a reality that Ruby wakes up and her parents are home and they're not going anywhere. Like, we're just going to spend our time together. Like, yes, I'll put in work. Obviously things take work. But at the end of the day, if I can maximize on what it is I'm doing, I think that's the biggest difference between entrepreneurs and employees, is like employees just trade their time for money and entrepreneurs trade their time for results. And so what can I do in my time that can produce better results so that I could take more time off and I could be done at 1 p.m., or if I want to work, I can work, or I don't have to work, or I can work on this if I want to. So all that to say, it definitely gave me a push to really go for the things that I'm supposed to do. And I think maybe there is a selfish aspect to that, but if I'm not in tune with myself in that regard, then I would just be a frustrated parent. And then probably she gets the short end of the stick every day. And I come home and I have nothing to give. And I know that, and I've seen that a lot too in families. And so I think if as a parent, if I could have a fulfilled life where I enjoy the work that I'm doing, then what she gets is like the energy that's in the home is of peace. Like we have a peace energy. There's no hostility. We're not trying to make ends meet and all this stuff. It's like, no, man, like we love what we get to do and it's a blessing and we're connected to a church and like building God's house and all this stuff plays a role in being a parent where you get to create the reality your kids have. And so I mean, I wouldn't be mad if a lot of times we can criticize, spoiled kids or what have you. I'm not saying Ruby's spoiled, but she is the only kid. And if we see something that we want her to have, we get it or what have you. But like, so what? I want my kid to be spoiled, man. Like that's what I want for my kid. That's a desire I have. And so like, I think, that her coming into our lives definitely gave us a push and gave me a personal push to know that like, now it's for her too. And there is pressure there, but it's good pressure. Definitely. But yeah, love being a parent. It's so weird. It's like, it's weird because like, it's still, even though she's 2, but it's weird in the sense that like, I feel like a kid and now I have a kid, but at the same time, I've never wanted to like squeeze anything as often as I squeeze Ruby. Like it's weird. Because I'm not squeezing other people's kids. Like I have no desire to do that, but like my own kid, like I can hug her every day and squeeze her, even though she runs away from me now, but it's all love.
Nah, man, bro. Thank you so much for sharing that, man. And I guess too, man, like you did mention just a bit about, still being that kid. And bro, I'm on the same page as you, man. Like, I'm still young and I'm still, saying to myself, man, I'm not saying that, one thing I believe in is that, I believe that God hasn't called us to be childish. He's called us to be childlike. Having that childlike desire. And you think about yourself as a kid, and I'm guessing I wouldn't say you can relate to this, but you can see it in Ruby on how much joy, that babies have. And it's because like they're curious, they're in that curious mindset. They're like, they don't know sure. much. And so whatever they're looking, they might grab a lolly and they'll be like, what's this? And they realize that it's bad, and like, oh, they realize, they take a black jelly bean and then they take it and they're like, oh, they may say it's nice. They may say that it's not. But one thing I've learned about kids is that, having that, I guess, that childlikeness in them, it's all about, the joy, they're always, happy, and then there's always moments where they're sad. But, I believe that God has called us to be childlike. God's called us to still have that childlikeness in us, not childish. It's like we need to get rid of the childishness away. But, when it comes to, I guess, having, the faith or what you're doing in life, like it's all about, think of it as if like you're childlike. Is that something that you can like resonate with?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the reason why God, would desire that to be our posture and position is because I think the opposite of faith is certainty or logic. And like, and it obviously there is maturing in Christ. And then there's this tandem where like, no, we're supposed to still not even like, are we making risks, based off of trusting God's voice and things like that. And I think that's, the only thing that we can be certain of is that God would provide or God would pull through. But having childlike faith is I think it's simply not, getting too concerned with the little things. I've seen a lot of people walk away simply because they started deconstructing their faith. Why? Well, why does, God do it that way? Like, why, if he's God, then why? And I think there's a level to that isn't reserved. That's not for us to walk down. And I'll just choose. I love going the dummy route. Like every time I'm like, nah, man, I'm gonna just live in the place of like, Jesus died for my sins and that was enough. And so I can live my life with that reality. But some people really need to like deconstruct their faith and make it about that. And then that's actually what happens, is it just becomes very, very selfish when they go down that journey. And I've just seen it time and time again. But all that to say, yeah, man, I think never losing those foundational things. Like that's why I still get wrecked when, on Easter's, I still get wrecked at Easter services, because I'm like, yeah, my gosh, it's going to happen for somebody else, today, or even on a Sunday when, I know it can happen for somebody else, and that I still yet don't deserve it, but yet it's still going to happen to other people. And I've been sealed and things like that. So yeah, man, I 100% resonate with that reality. But for sure, we're supposed to have childlike faith, man.
Yeah, honestly, man, and I don't know. I feel like just saying that, it may resonate with someone. Someone might be watching this or listening to this, this podcast, and probably saying, you know what, I needed to hear that. And so, if you guys are getting value, make sure you guys comment if you're watching YouTube, and if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you jump back onto the YouTube, and then chuck a comment down below. But I guess now, man, like you shared a bit about your upbringing. People got a bit of understanding and a bit of context on who you are. I guess from now, what I want to do is, I guess I want to continue along the journey of knowing more on who you are before we actually get into talking about what you do. Because I believe that before anything, before you being a content creator, before you, being part of the Thick Media team, before you, doing everything that you've done, you're a person first. And so I guess at this point, man, I want to kind of go into the journey of kind of asking you, man, like, what would you say for you was probably the biggest setback that you've had in your existence on this earth? What would you say for you, man, has been one of your setbacks, your biggest setbacks?
I mean, dude, that's funny how you say that, because I have between two close friends of mine, when they do public speaking, they always lead with like those two setbacks. One of my friend, he has like a stutter, but he's like one of the main real estate agents on social media, and he creates video. But this dude has like a gnarly stutter that you wouldn't even know he genuinely has, because he's worked on it. But that's like one way he kind of like starts his talks and things like that. And then, Sean Cannel, he had him and his wife, Sonia, went through like a huge rough patch. And dude, I'm probably the worst to ask that question, because I don't know. Like I was raised really well. I'm so grateful about life. And in regards to like setbacks, man, I think, like I was saying, like the fear of not getting caught up in drugs, the fear of not getting caught up with girls. I mean, I can't, my hair light just died. I found Jesus at a young age. Like, dude, it's terrible. I need to figure out a way to communicate this, but like, what do you know? I honestly don't have many setbacks. I've been afforded a family that like my parents still together. Like, but I mean, if I, and I don't even like, as far as like even trying to go down a road where I'm trying to figure out what's something that, I struggle with or what have you. I mean, I think we all struggle with like insecurities. And so if there honestly was like a setback, it was my insecurity to fail to communicate what it is I wanted to do in life. Like I think we can have a painted picture of what it is that we want to do, that like the way it looks is this, you marry this type of person and you do this kind of internship and you go to this kind of college, and that all feeds insecurities, because every track that the human life takes is supposed to be, not traditional. Every track isn't traditional. And so when we start to follow a path that isn't ours, then we can kind of find ourselves in a frustrated place. And so I would say, like, I've had a small, like, I guess you could say, like a desire to communicate, to teach. And I mean, a little bit of maybe like, yeah, preach, but like also just communicate in any way, shape, or form. And obviously I'm able to do it at such a high level now on videos and things like that. But I was afraid to actually share that desire for so long. And so, yes, I was behind the scenes for so long, but I also always bottled in the reality that I wanted to be in front of the camera. And I don't think it was never for like self-inflicted reasons or like selfish reasons. It was more or less like, put me in, coach. Like I was like, I'll do a better job. Like that was like always my perspective. But in I guess you could say in hiding or in suppressing that and not really sharing it, I was still a student of whatever I wanted, my small desires. And so learning communication and things like that. And then so when I think when the opportunity and when the time was right, and now obviously when God entrusted me with like platforms and different and things like that, that I was able to come out swinging, because in secret I was developing. But at the end of the day, I think it isn't healthy to not share your wants in life. I think that's one of the biggest questions you should answer every day is like, what do I want? And like define it and then go for it. I think, and obviously I hope that it is like spirit led in the sense that you're not just doing it for selfish ambition or anything, but like, what are the desires of your heart and what do you want? Because like, it's what you actually want and desire that will distinguish you from everybody else. And so I don't know, man, I think when it comes to like insecurities and stuff, that was probably a big thing I wrestled with for a while. But knowing and learning that I needed to define it and then tell people, like tell the people that matter and tell the people that could either affirm or deny that that reality or that desire that I have. And so, yeah, I think defining what it is you want is really important and helps you beat the insecurity kind of like spirit. And I think more than anything, that's one of the biggest things people struggle with is insecurity, because they don't think that they're worth it or they're able to do whatever it is they want to do. And I think it's so important, because if you're not doing what you want to do, like you're just going to live in a life of frustration. And dude, I've actually been on this kick, kind of like been pressed by my pastor, but I think the world is consumed or concerned with who they're becoming.
Yeah.
And dude, I think it's backwards, bro. Like, I think we're so like, we're all trying to be as true of ourselves as much as possible when we should just be like Christ. So like, how about instead of focusing on how true you are, you should be focusing on what it is you're doing? Because it's not when I freaking die and I stand to God face to face, he's not going to say, how true were you to yourself? No, man. He's going to ask me, what did you do with the life you had? And so I think the question is like, it's a stewardship. Like our lives are to be stewarded more than it is to be like searched. I'm just trying to find, what am I supposed to do in life? And, like where my place is, because I'm really trying to find myself. And it's like, dude, that's bogus, man. Like, you are you. Like, I mean, I don't know what else you need to do to find you, but like you need to, how about let's just become more like Jesus, and let's do the will of the Father. And I think that will shape the way you do things, because now I'm not working for man's approval. Now I'm not, like doing things out of line and things like that. But I would say, to answer your question is it was insecurity, just because maybe I wasn't affirmed much growing up by my dad. My dad wasn't really like, affectionate, even like he wasn't all that affectionate toward my mom. But all that to say, that fed into a level of insecurity in not being able to actually share what it is I want to do. And dude, when you have the freedom to know that like you're hiding nothing, I think that's like when like literally the door is open wide for your life. And that's why I actually love marriage. Like the reality of marriage when it comes to freedom, I think as a single person, it's kind of hard because like, I don't know if somebody in this world knows you more than you. Right. Yeah. So because you're not spending any time with anybody. But when you get married and you are actually open about the things you're struggling with, and literally that the person closest to you every single day of your life knows everything about you, your struggles and your strengths and whatever, then I have full security. Like I'm not, there's nothing I'm hiding. Like absolutely, there's somebody on this planet that knows my deepest, darkest, whatever. And so it's actually in marriage that I think you experience a level of freedom that allows you to, take on the world and do the things of God, because those are the barriers that'll like get you stuck. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bro, that's amazing, man. I guess I just want to say one thing quickly about the I guess the power of the BTS meaning behind the scenes. Like I've been fortunate enough to do a lot of behind the scenes work, and I've been able to learn so much more behind the scenes than being probably on stage, simply because you get to actually watch. You get to watch people's moves, and you get to kind of critique it in your own head. But then I guess what happens is you get into a point of saying, like, I can possibly do better, or probably do better, simply because I've watched someone's flaws. But it's like, instead of me kind of like dishing it on them, it's like I can make myself better. And that was pretty much what I was hearing from you, man. When it came to you going like doing the behind the scenes work, and then getting into a place of saying, like, what am I actually desiring? I'm desiring to communicate. I'm desiring to, and even that, you're not doing it for selfish like desires. You're not doing it for your own sake. Like, you're pretty much doing it for, I guess, God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it for God, and it's all about that stewardship. So, the point I want to, the point that I want to go, I guess my point is to those that are listening, that there is power in the behind the scenes work that you do. When like the things that you're doing in secret, one thing I believe in is that anything that is done in the darkness will be formed into light. Everything's going to be pushed up into light eventually. So if you're doing good things behind the scenes, it's going to flourish. It is going to come up. And so I wanted to just point that out. But bro, I also want to say, man, like, I appreciate you sharing about your, I guess, your insecurities, because I know for some other people, it's very difficult, or like it'd be very difficult for them to share. But bro, I appreciate you so much sharing about that. And so, knowing that you had these insecurities, knowing that you went through moments of like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm worthy, I'm not sure if I'm capable, what would you say was the things that made you, I guess, the setup? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. The setup. What was the setup for you, knowing that you're going through all those insecurities? What was the thing that actually pushed you out to say, you know what, this is who I am, and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, man, I could actually attest the specific moment when it happened. When the unlock happened, and the unlock happened when it was me, Heather Torres, she's a part of the Think Media team, and then there was also Kyle Anderson. He's my editor at Think Media, and he's best friend too. But yeah, we were talking in a circle because he was like, he's not one to make a YouTube channel, but like, he's so talented. Like, he can play the drums, he's a phenomenal editor, he can shoot and things like that. But he never has a desire to like do anything in the open, whatever that terminology means. But I was like, dude, just do covers. Like, he was doing like drum beats to Travis Scott, and it was so tight because he would just send me the video. I'm like, dude, just put those on YouTube. And he's like, man, I don't know. And it was like a specific moment in like 2016 or 2017, and we were standing together talking about like, dude, Kyle, just start like something. And then Heather was like, oh, you're fine, and then I was like, I kind of shared that we say Kyle should start that, but like, I kind of I feel like I'm actually locked into taking photos and video and stuff. And I shared it with her. I was like, I kind of want to I want to pastor. I want to preach, and I want to teach. And she was like, why can't you? I was like, because like, you got to freaking marry a worship leader, and you got to plan a church. And I was kind of just like sharing like my thought of how that works because of my experience. Like, I've just seen it in my past life. Like the people that they're called, they're the PK or the pastor's kids, or like here are the paths to get to that place. And she's like, no, she's like, for you, it's the guy who can do it all behind the scenes, and he can take a mic. She's like, that's for you. It doesn't have to be. And that was when, like, that was the unlock when she literally, and I tell her, I try to remind her every once in a while, but like, it was that, like, no, for you, it is what you think it is, because the reality is it is you, it's your convictions and your things like that. And to think that, and here's what's crazy. Like, I preached 0 times when I worked in ministry, and I've been able to communicate many times at our church. And at the same time, like, but I'm not even on staff. I'm running a gimbal when I'm not serving in another capacity on a Sunday. But I have the ability to get on stage and do things like that. And all that to say, like, that all happened because I got secure in that reality. But the unlock was for someone to just tell me, and let me be that person today for whoever's listening, that, like, for you, it is that. So what is it that you want to do? Like, you can do this and that. Well, for you, it's you being able to do that and this, because that was your makeup, like. And so I think, and dude, and then the flip side is, like, the flip side is the flip side. Here's the flip side. You know how many pastors called me this COVID season asking for help on how to film themselves, live stream, have a camera set, like, and then it was like just like that, I became the most valuable voice to a church, or I wouldn't say voice, but like skill. Like when before it was like, who else can teach or pastor or run admin work or this like that. Now it was like, no, man, who can run a camera? No, man, who knows how to dial in the sound? Who knows that? And it's crazy how that happened. And it was spoken over me from my previous pastor that I would be a preacher, but not traditionally. And I think that was just like a word he spoke over me. And I know because he knew it was going to be in the sense of like in video form, but being able to, teach preachers how to use their stuff to be able to communicate better. Like, it's crazy that I would be used in that light, but that's all just God doing his thing. But at the end of the day, it's his desire for us to be secure in how he's created us with the gifts and the things that we've decided to, do in our lives, and the things that actually we find fulfillment and joy in. And how sucky would that have been if I traded the thing that I actually found enjoyment in to, like, submit to a process or not when you say process, but like a journey that wasn't even mine. Like, it wouldn't have been my journey if I, just like, all right, I'm just gonna stop. I'm gonna go to Bible college to fulfill this like weird desire to communicate. And like, no, that's not cool. So yeah, man, I think 100% it's just, that's why I think it's so important to have people in your life where you can say those things, but then not just say those things to random people, but people who would actually challenge you or like say something about it. And so like immediately, I wouldn't say immediately right after that hangout or whatever, when Heather was like, no, Omar, it's for you, it's both. But I started to be more, bold about telling my pastor these desires. I'm like, yo, Javen, I want to preach, bro. Teach me. Like, I will freaking murder it if like you give me the opportunity, and I'll listen to what you have to say, and I'll be a student. And like, if anybody knows who Javen Chavez is, like, my pastor is one of the, dude, I'm not even saying that bias wise, but like, he is a phenomenal communicator. Like, the man is called to preach God's word. And so I would even say it's a little daunting to tell somebody who's that gifted and who doesn't need anybody's help to, preach, communicate, to be like, yo, teach me. But I think that's, that just showed how secure I was to be able to just communicate to him. And he's been grateful for that, or he's grateful that I would feel comfortable to even share those desires with him, where I was afraid back then because of the way, culture was, or the way that, I personally saw that path to be a communicator. But I mean, even then, just like, at the end of the day, I drop 2 videos a week on Think Media, which forces me to script, which forces me to get in front of a camera and communicate. Being the small groups director, I actually take the pastor's message and I create a discussion guide out of it when we're in group season. And then that's the guide that the groups use. And so I'm almost like reworking a sermon every week for a semester, a couple semesters a year. So there's like many instances when I'm actually doing what it is I want to do. And so, dude, at the end of the day, back to like not quitting, like it really is just putting in reps. A lot of people who I would say if you have the desire to communicate, like who's stopping you to communicate now? Like there's YouTube, there's, you could start communicating and don't limit it to a stage and a microphone. That's where it's like, that's where the fail is. Like, that's crazy to think that like most churches had to make the shift to like not stage and microphone, just like post production or live stream, no audience, small audience or what have you. But I think at the end of the day, just being secure, dude, security is just knowing that you are okay to do what it is you're supposed to do. And that's why I don't think there is like, you need to have this like self-discovery, like where you're trying to find your true self. Cause like, what you like to do, what like enjoy, you find enjoyment in, or, what those desires, those are real and those are God given. And so you don't have to like, I think, search, like, I think that's just like a weird cultural term that we use, is searching or waiting. Dude, that's another one. I'm just waiting for the Lord to tell me, like, nah, man. Like the Bible says, the only time it really says wait is like, those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. And contextually, it's because if we do anything outside of God, if we don't do it with Jesus, then we're actually going to deplete all our energy. And It's almost like it's like those who like, work and wait in the Lord shall renew their strength. Like now I have a grace on top of my hustle and I can move in that way, in that light. So, I mean, I say all that to say, I think that God, and this could have been like theologically mishap, but like there is like this wave of grace teaching where it's like, it's all God and it's all because of God. And it's like, I don't know if I believe that anymore. I think it's a partnership. God says like we're co-laborers with him. And so it's us doing our part. What can you do? What can I do? And then God will do what we cannot do. And so I think when those two come together, that's when like the magic happens. Like there is no such thing as like, it'll just happen or God will make it happen. No, man, like we work like there, God blesses the diligent workers. The people who work their land are blessed. And so all that to say, I think having security and whatever it is you're putting your hands to is really important. And that's the work that God will bless because you're doing it because you're supposed to.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. And I guess like just to add into what you're saying, you're talking about security, being secured, but just at top, like just to put like a bit of icing on the cake, it was also humility, like you having that humility to say, like I want to go back to being a student. Like, although I want to be a teacher, I want to be a student and I want to become like the best communicator that I can be. But I can't do that if I'm in teacher mode all the time. It's like, I got to be a student. And that all comes with humility. If you didn't make that bold decision, say, what, like, teach me how to become a better communicator. Like that takes a lot of humility to say that, I've met people that like the one thing that's actually stopping them from actually growing is their pride. And that's something, and I guess not just pride, but their ego, like, and I know for sure from like doing podcasting and then like, creating content, like that can easily puff up like your ego and your pride. And I guess like stating to people, hey, I want to go back to being a student. I want to learn that gets you straight back into into student mode, which is like humility. Like you're humbling yourself to say, what, like I'm keen to feed. I'm keen to get fed by what you have to give.
For sure. Yeah, man. I honestly think the secret to success is staying a student. I think when the moment you feel like you've figured it out, I think you've found your end. And so leaders are learners. I don't think you should ever stop learning. I'm a student of my own craft. Like I still nerd out on new tech, of videos that I'm not doing. I still nerd out on other cinematic filmmakers and things like that. Even though I'm not teaching cinematic stuff, I just know that gives me another edge when I am learning or am developing a thought for my own personal videos. And so, all that to say, I think being a student is one of the key things to being a leader or a forefront person, because you give out whatever it is you consume. And so if you're consuming nothing, you'll have nothing in your tank to give. And I think when the wisdom is, what am I supposed to be consuming? Because I love leadership stuff. I love tech stuff. I love YouTubers and the vlogs and things like that. But the type of content that I choose to consume is intentional. Like I'm not just sitting on my phone and scrolling. The people I follow make sense. The people I follow on YouTube, the videos I watch make sense. So I say all that to say, like, you should become a lover of being a student if you're trying to do anything in life, because that's the only way you get better. And to think, like I said, that you hit the mark, then I think is actually the place that you need to start again at, you know?
Yeah, no, 100%. And yeah, obviously it's all about that humility and I guess letting go of your selfish desires to say, you know what, like I'm keen to learn which is cool. But yeah, man, I want to say thank you so much for sharing that, man. Like, talking about, opening up about your insecurities. I'm guessing these are probably new things. I know it's new to me. Like I never knew that you struggled with that. And also to see that, like that having people around you, having, real kind of keen people to tell you the truth and be honest with you can actually be the biggest game changer for your life. And so I guess from this side now, I actually want to take I guess another pivot, and I want to move into what you're doing. For the past hour we've just been focusing intentionally on who you are and your story, and I'm loving this, man. I'm getting so much value from this as a podcast host. But I know that there are people out there watching this and listening to this, like, receiving so much value from this. But what I want to do right now, man, is I want to talk about, Think Media. I want to talk about what you're doing in that platform. I know that this is something that you're really passionate on doing, whether it's teaching, people on new content, through your content videos, or even just simply like, impacting people and helping them out. So what's the, like, so what exactly is your role in terms of the Think Media team?
Yeah. So simply put, I would say I'm a content creator at Think Media. And I would say there's a few characters. I mean, it started with Sean Cannel. He's the one who started the channel. And I didn't think, and maybe he knew when he started it would become what it is today, but it's become a full-on blown, I think, media company where we use YouTube as like the top of funnel of the business, where we provide tons of free value. Like you'll probably have a hard time figuring out how we actually make money if you follow us long enough. But YouTube is a big top funnel to the business, and then it falls into things like our online course called Video Ranking Academy. It teaches you how to rank your videos in search on YouTube, how to get discovered and things like that. And then there's also, it goes deeper with Inner Circle, and that's just a community of people, online entrepreneurs who are trying to, level up their business online. And that community is like a monthly kind of group coaching community. But I'm a content creator, and there are a handful of us. Like, I mean, I think like on Think Media itself, you have Sean who will, do YouTube strategy tips a lot of times. And then there's like me and Nolan who are doing camera, lighting, kind of like your mic, your audio, your things like that. And then we also have Heather Torres, who she's a huge voice with Think Media too, when it comes to like teaching work, like systems and like project management and things like that. And then we actually have a channel and a podcast as well called Think Marketing. And really, Sean and Heather really spearhead that. And then we have a couple other people that inside the Facebook groups and the communities that we've built are also good faces, like Tony Ariola and Mel Caputo. And so, yeah, it's just there's I could say a handful of us. Sean likes to say we're like the Wu-Tang of I guess you could say content creating and YouTube, because even though we are all a part of Think Media, we all still have like our bent or our personal things, like our channels. Like Heather, she's a homeschool mom and she has a homeschool channel that does pretty well. I have my personal YouTube channel that I don't post consistently. However, it's there and there is good videos on there, but where I go a little bit deeper with photo, video, and things like that. But yeah, we all have kind of like the thing that we're, that we like building. And it's also case study, like, cause I did client work. It allows me to be able to teach it even better when, one thing we love living by is this term called player coaches. Like, we never want to, like kind of mentioned before, but we never want to just be the people telling you what to do and we don't do it ourselves. And so, we had a lot of videos that were ranking for, podcasting and video podcasting, but yet we didn't have our own video podcast. And so, we started that in January, and, just been consistent, one upload a week on all platforms, and have been keeping with it. But yeah, being player coaches is a huge thing. But personally, yeah, my goal is really just to drop 2 videos a week on Think Media, but we upload Monday through Friday. And I think I would say there will never be an upload where you probably won't learn something you didn't know prior to watching it. And so we take it pretty seriously. We hope that, obviously our hope is that everyone would watch every video, but that's obviously not the case. And because of the power of YouTube, there's people that are finding us just today, even though it's a 10-year-old channel, people are still finding us today and starting their, I guess you could say, Think Media journey, where they just are learning about the camera that they should buy, or learning about how they can, create their thumbnails. And so we just want to help, people. Like, our mission is to help 10,000 people, reach part-time or full-time income with online video. So that's kind of like our North Star. That's kind of what keeps us grounded. That's why we'll still repeat stuff, over and over, because even just this year, we've almost doubled, or close to double. And it's because of the pandemic, because everybody was like, man, I got to start building something for myself. And so a lot of people started finding Think Media and the videos that were ranking in search. And so really it is just like educating people to like use this as a resource. Like, you can literally search lighting in our channel and learn so much about lighting and the different types of lights and the budgets, based off of budgets, and also how to use them. And yeah, I have a fun time doing it. I have a fun time creating videos and thinking about, and at the end of the day, that's what it is. We're just helping people get started. Anytime we feel like we're starting to, go tangent or rabbit trail in a weird direction, we always bring it back to helping people with YouTube videos. Like, what's the best camera for YouTube? Not what's the best camera for video, because it's the best camera for YouTube. Like, we want a camera that has a flip out screen, because you might be filming yourself, or like, we want a camera that has a clean HDMI, because if you want to use it for live streaming, you don't want to have to worry about locking in your focus. Like, did you have to lock in your focus, or are you using EOS webcam utility?
Yeah, EOS, bro.
Yeah, so you don't have to, huh? It's like clean. Yeah,
it's so clean. Yeah.
But yeah, all that to say, I think just helping people at the level we're able to help people is really, I would say, is obviously satisfying in and of itself. But trying not to get too complacent in that, because there's still so much people. And like I said, that North Star is helping 10,000 people. So yeah, that's kind of what Think Media is about and what we've been trying to build.
Yeah, no, sweet, man. And I gotta say, man, like I've received tons of value from not just yourself, but also from the team. There's usually at least one thing that I get out of the videos. It might be something small, like a lot of the things that I've done now, or a lot of the, I guess, the upgrades that I've taken. Everyone asked me, okay, where did you get that from? And I was like, Think Media, like, this is the team. Like, I actually got it from this video, and I'll send it through. And so, yeah, you guys are doing such a great job, man. And I know that you're doing a great job, and it's cool because it actually relates to our mission, which is impacting the one. I've been impacted by it, and now I get the opportunity to get the person that impacted me onto the Impact Podcast show. Sure. And that's kind of like my mission, is not only to be impacted, but also to find a way to impact other people. And so, yeah, man, I want to say, bro, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you like jumping on board, and I also appreciate you, bro, sharing your story, because I already know right now that there is someone out there getting impacted by your story, whether it's a close friend of yours or, a person that's on the other side of the world. Someone is getting impacted right now from listening from your story.
Appreciate that, bro. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, all good, man, all good. But I guess as we wrap up this podcast, there's one thing I always love to do, man, and it's an opportunity for the podcast special guest to share just something that's been on their heart. And so, bro, is there any chance that you could possibly share an encouragement for those that are listening and or watching?
Yeah, man, I think in regards to what it is I'm doing, like, I don't want to be too granular in what I'm saying, but I think whatever is the desire in your heart, I just say get started. I mean, I think there's no way, no one starts clean. Everyone starts messy. And the difference though between somebody who has achieved greatness and versus somebody who hasn't is that the person just got started. You know, I think just doing it and figuring it out is part of the process. Fall in love with the process of what it is you want to do. And so if you can love the process of whatever it is you're doing, then you can find enjoyment and fulfillment in. Then have the self-awareness. I would say have the self-awareness to know what it is that you don't like doing, because then you can have a goal. Now I have a new goal. I want to hire that part out to have somebody do that thing for me, or I need to find somebody to do it. Someone to record me. I hate editing my videos. I'm going to pay somebody to edit my whatever that may be. But I think in the realm of building a brand or a business or whatever you're trying to do in life, I think the big thing is just to get started. What is the next step, and write it down and then do that step. I think life is only a culmination of one step after another step after another step. At our church at City Light, the goal of every group leader that I encourage them to do is to help their group members move one step in their walk with Jesus. And so we never want to minimize that step. Your next step might not be that big of a step compared to somebody else's, but it is your next step. And once you take it, it's awesome. And you could celebrate that. But we never want to minimize what that next step is. But if the next step is for you to get started, is to hit record, is to go out and do that thing, just do it. Trust me to say that nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to watch your first video will not go viral. You can quote me on that. And then you can DM me if it does. And then I'll pay you something off for being wrong. But the chances are is nobody's going to see your video. And even if you don't want anybody to see it, take it off of unlisted. I think there's something about hearing yourself and seeing yourself on video and your voice. Get used to it, because if that's what you're trying to build, you're going to need to be okay with it, And so I know a lot of people say, I hate the way I look or I hate the way I sound, but that's how you sound and that's how you look. I'm sorry to tell you, you need to be okay with it, but just get started, write your next step down. And man, if you ever find yourself stumbling, or, you maybe don't know what to do, just go back to the reason why you wanted to do the thing you're supposed to do. I think knowing who you're doing it for is very helpful. Is it for family? Is it for God? Is it for your wife? What are you doing it for? And that'll help you take the next step every time you need to. But at the end of the day, you just got to get started. So get started with whatever it is that you got to do. And I'm pumped to see whatever it is that you are trying to build. And at the end of the day, the people you will change and the lives you'll affect. And so that would be my encouragement to everyone watching or listening.
Yeah, sweet, man, bro. I appreciate the encouragement. I'm getting fully encouraged by that, and I can fully relate to going through that. I guess that period of my life where I was finding, I guess, a spark when realistically I needed to just be, I just needed to spark it up. And so, as Omar said, get started, just start, figure out your next step. And just I guess in harsh reality, just accept the fact that your video ain't going to go viral. Honestly, just accept it, because it's a process. And I guess then another big encouragement that you mentioned was about loving the loving the process, fall in love with the process. And so, yeah. So, bro, I just want to say, man, thank you so much for jumping on. If there is anyone out there that is wanting to, connect with you, what's the best way that they can connect with you, bro?
Yeah, man. I mean, I would say you can connect with me on a personal level on Instagram. My Instagram's at Omar El-Takrori. You can on my website if you want to maybe get some content creator coaching. But on a general standpoint, if you really just want help on, leveling up your video and how to even build an online business using video, then definitely subscribe to Think Media. You'll find so much helpful content, and hopefully it's, even if you don't find it all that helpful, it's kind of entertaining. Some people say that I can binge watch your channel. I'm like, I don't even know how you can do that, but because I'm kind of monotone. I don't even change the inflection of my voice all that often. But hey, if you find it entertaining, awesome. But yeah, check out Think Media on YouTube and subscribe, and check out the videos that are on there. Anything that could help would help. And so, yeah, man.
Yeah, sweet. So for those out there that are watching this podcast through our YouTube channel, all the links will be down in the description down below. But if you're listening to this through Spotify or Apple Podcasts, check out our Instagram. He'll be promoted on our page, and you'll be getting all the links to his Instagram page. And if you guys got any questions, I believe that he'll be more than happy to help you out there. And so, guys, that is all that we got. I want to say, bro, thank you so much once again for jumping on.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate you having me.
All good. So, guys, that is it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you guys in the next one.